United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. I have it. It's all right. I have it. Chairwoman Eloise Taylor.
Here.
Vice Chairman Bill Colombo.
Here.
Board Member Steve O'Neill.
Here.
Board Member Nancy Britton.
Here.
Board Member Terrence Rowe.
Here.
City Attorney Joe Public. Let the record show that the City Attorney is not here. City Manager Tom O'Neill.
Here.
All right, the first item is approval of two sets of CRA minutes for May 6, 2014 and May 10th, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any discussions, corrections, additions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They pass. Any announcements, Mr. O'Neill?
No, I have none at this time.
Any comments from the public? Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Any comments from members of the CRA?
No, we
All
did
right.
both, right? May 6th and May.
Yes.
Oh, May.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the item of business for tonight, and that is a discussion with Gildog as to private-public partnerships in the waterfront overlay district. Who's going to speak on behalf of Gildog? Walt?
I am.
Come on up. We need you to tell us your name and where you reside, sir.
Walter Lowe's, reside at 4909 Waterside, Port Richey.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
right.
You've got the floor.
I appreciate your time tonight. Just want to walk you through a brief presentation. I believe Tony might be looking for a more current presentation, but we'll see if he can come in with it. I think this will suffice for tonight, but we'll see if he comes in with it, the newer presentation. Here he comes. Saved by the bell. Look at this. All gadgeted up. Your worst nightmare.
Oh, there's.
Oh. We didn't do that. Thank you very much. So on this first slide, and we'll just walk through the slides real quick, and I think I'll come to the end of the presentation where it'll sort of talk about what we're hoping we can sort of engage the city CRA in as far as what we're hoping that we'll work together on as far as private-public relationship. But as you all are aware of, a plan that we've been sort of following very closely has been the Waterfront Overlay District Plan, the master plan that was done back in 1998. And that plan really, I think, lays a solid foundation over what I think the waterfront in Port Richey can be. There's very solid plans within that master plan that I think we should all, so hopefully, seriously look at considering. Obviously, one of the plans that was not in the master waterfront overlay plan was the waterfront park, which since you guys have developed another plan that's been part of obviously some other submittals to the restore and so forth. But that's also part of the presentation here, that we're hoping to bring the waterfront park into the overall plan for the waterfront, and that would be something that we'd hope that everyone could look at. The map over to the right-hand side, and I'm not going to try to use the laser for this, but is actually the West Market development area that's been identified by the county as one of their focused areas. So we're hoping that we can bring the plans, the existing plans that are already out there, and bring them together and really focus our time and energy into Port Richey waterfront. So this is the plan that that is already existing from 1998, that has many critical elements that we think are important in developing the waterfront. Obviously, the corridor in which we're on, Channel 18. Obviously, the waterfront park is just adjacent to that. There's obviously, since this earlier plan, there's been other developments that have come along and that have changed some of this landscape. But the basic elements of it, call for, obviously, commercial parking is a critical aspect to it. Water access is another critical element. Probably a real big element to it is obviously the pedestrian-friendly walkways. As you can see in the plan, it calls for a boardwalk that encompasses the whole downtown waterfront, which I think that would go a long way, immensely long way in creating that walkable commercial waterfront district that I think that we all want. Like I said, we've been using what you guys, have put forth for us in the master plan, and that is, developing the Gildog, restaurant, waterfront rentals, or water sport rentals, and trying to be that catalyst for that commercial district. And I think so far we've done a fairly good job in providing that excitement, that initial drive to try to get people excited about what we have going on here in Port Richey. I'm obviously newer to the community, but I've been fortunate in my travels to be able to go to lots of cool places, doing adventure travel for past 30 years. So do all the adventure travel for Costa Rica, for Belize, for many cool places. But what the coolest thing is, we have all that right here in our very backyard. I live on the bayou, get to work on the bayou. We have all the things that can make up a world-class destination right here. We just need to take hold of it and build off of it. We have world-class flats, talk to all the fishermen around here. We have the perfect waterways for flats fishing. Something new that we're bringing on June 14th is a market on the bayou. So once again, trying to build off of what we already have going on in the area and building that market on the bayou, which will be an open air market. And then the bottom picture there is, I think, sort of showcasing some of the possibilities, and that is platform tents. That's actually one of the tents that we used on Belize for our Belize operation, where it's pre-set up, has air conditioned, cots, and we've already been having cursory conversations with some of the parks about putting some of these platforms inside the tents so we can have support and accommodations for some of the venture travelers. Something that many of you might not know or be aware of is the circumnavigational trail. For paddlers, this right here, like down in the Keys, the 10,000 islands, they're all over the marketing of this. You'll see 100-day paddles, you'll see all sort of destination marketing that's geared around the circumnavigational trail, and we have 23 miles of it. So, it's just sitting there waiting for us to utilize and to build off of, and so it's sitting there for our use and for us to sort of come around and rally around. Once again, here you have, many times, what has sort of held us back, I think, by thinking a little bit deeper about some of these issues, is people, think, oh, well, we don't have the beaches, we're always talking about what we don't have. But let's start talking about what we do have and how we can build off those things. We have the Energy and Marine Center right out our back doors. Warner Boyce State Park, 4,000-acre state park. That's right, it's half a mile from our front doors. Durney Key, it's once again a short half-hour paddle out there where people can go out, picnic, enjoy. These are all things that are sitting right out our back door. To be able to accommodate bringing, visitors into our area, bringing into building the communities that I think that we all want to be able to build off of. We need to have, the required infrastructure to be able to invite people into our communities properly, I believe. And also to look towards the quality of life, that I think we're all looking for. Over the last, probably 6-7 months, I've been to many city council meetings. We've been talking about some of the elements that maybe we don't enjoy so much. But, if we're wanting to build that quality of life, I think we all have to invest in the things in the community and, the future that we all want. So these are, I think, some of the things that in looking at some of these plans that need to be addressed. Parking, I think many of you have been down on the waterfront in the past probably a couple months, and anything real of significance going on, it gets pretty hairy down there as far as trying to find adequate parking and people parking sort of where they want, and left unmanaged. I think there's probably going to be additional issues in our near future. Water access, like I said, trying to take advantage of what we have in our backyard, the flats, the access to the Gulf, all those sort of things. I think water access, depth of water, those sort of related issues are important issues for us to be taking a look at. Street landscaping and wayward signage. I think once again, these are probably things that are within our reach to go ahead and look towards, improving, the street landscape and pointing people to, points of business, attractions, those sort of items. What's real important for myself, being a biker and runner, is trail development. I mean, there's no reason with the kind of landscape that we have right here why we can't spend more time and attention on just connecting our trails, looking for more walkable access. That attracts additional investment, that attracts individuals that are looking to relocate, that are looking for that higher quality of life, all those things that we know. And the last thing is just, like I said, and when we're bringing all these things together, it obviously goes towards pointing us to building this new community that I think and improved community that we're all looking for, and then we can look to work together on branding that together as the destination that really it already is. It's just, we're making some small improvements, and really, because we got to compete. I mean, with being where we're at and just in the global economy, we have to compete for that tourist dollar, for really the places where people want to live. So we need to sort of step up our game a little bit. So diving a little bit deeper into these, to be more concrete, is managed parking solutions. We have been sort of in conversations up to this point. Eric has. In the Highway 19 parcel that's directly in front of Gildog, where those conversations are ongoing. But what we like to try to do is look potentially at a private-public relationship as it relates to a parking solution on a portion of that property. So that's one thing that we would like, the CRA committee to consider, is looking at different related private-public parking solutions, and we've identified a property where that would be a possibility. So we'll get to the actual direct ask at the end of the presentation. We mentioned water access. I think besides the direct boat access, which I think that there are some pretty quick and easy solutions on that side of things. One of the things that I think definitely we need to look at is the dredge and what that can mean for our community. I know that there's obviously lots of history to that, but I think it's time to re-engage in that conversation and look at once again private-public partnerships and seeing what can be done on that side of it. So we do have some ideas that we'll share at the sort of end of the presentation, which is here. So here's sort of the 5 bullet points that we would like to engage in conversation with the CRA, and that is to look at street landscaping along and in the waterfront overlay district, according to what is already in the plan. We'd like to follow the plan. We'd like to hear the plan. We'd like to identify some key wayward signage out on 19 to take advantage of the increased traffic, obviously, off 19. And, you know, we've had some brief conversations with Tom and looking at some of those options, but we'd like to, and right now we actually lease a piece, well, we basically lease some space inside the bait shop right now that gives us access to have signage out on 19. And we'd like to sort of see if that can be utilized to really give an identity to the whole waterfront overlay district. A side note on that, we have been engaged with, there we go, with the rest of the businesses inside the waterfront overlay district, and we have sort of presented these same sort of issues. We are in agreement that these are some of our highest priority issues for the businesses within that district, but how we envision that marquee signage with the street landscaping would be saying welcome to, and we're still trying to identify what that name is, what that identity was, and we're working on that right now. But it'd be welcome to, let's just call it Port Richey Waterfront, and then it would list all the businesses, and then we'd have additional signage to direct people to where those businesses can be found, you know, the different parks, you know, all of that. The second point is what we'd like the CRA to consider is to direct city staff to enter into negotiations with Gildog into coming up with viable private-public partnership in regards to the parking solution with the Highway 19 parcel. The third point is determine project plans for dredging. Obviously the one that we're most interested in is Channel 18, the one that we share with the park. You know, we're interested in taking some lead on that and stuff like that, but we would obviously like to engage the city and seeing what we can do and working together on that, along with the channels that reside just outside of the waterfront overlay district. So those are the main channels that we like to target, and then see what additional conversations we can have. The other thing is to complete the sidewalk that comes out in front of Waterfront Park. Right now it just dead ends, and it's actually very dangerous for anyone that actually wants to walk or bike or any of those things. So, you know, right now people have to go on the road for any of those activities, which, you know, it's probably, quite honestly, an accident waiting to happen. But so that's would be something else we'd like for you guys to consider. And then just also just to reiterate that I think the earlier plans that we've laid out before, you know, we're not asking to reinvent the wheel or anything else along those lines, but it's really to dust off the master plan for the waterfront overlay district, you know, and let's, you know, basically implement some of those plans. We've already started doing that process. We'd like to sort of engage in a deeper conversation with the city on how we can best do that. So that's sort of my presentation, and I guess I open it for questions and would invite any others to, because some of the questions might obviously be directed towards Eric or Colleen as they're here.
All right, questions from council? Eric?
Eric Soinen, 5419 Treadway. I think Walter did a great job to, tell you what we're looking to do here. And from my ham and egg position here, I'm not, Walter's a big picture guy. I'm the small picture guy. I'm just trying to get us to get back on track here. Just to do some small things. We've had some meetings and we talked about low cost, high impact improvements. I think if the city just sees, or if the residents just see the city kind of, moving in that direction like we're trying to do here, and just some effort, I think it would really show that the rest of the community that there is some interest here. There is some interest, and we believe in what we have here. And when Walter's talking about, world-class paddling, Colleen and I have done a lot of traveling too, and the last one was in Costa Rica. And what we have here for paddling is unbelievable. It's crystal clear water. There's fish jumping everywhere. It's a beautiful thing, and I will be, the way that I am, I will do my best in our business to protect what we have as well as to share what we have, but I'm from my angle here, I'm just looking for some momentum and maybe that the CRA allows us to get into some conversation to see if we can find some common ground with somebody like Tom, who has been doing this for 40 years and he knows how to get things done, and maybe we work together and find something that everybody can accept, but it doesn't have to be $1 zillion. I think a lot of this just has to be some elbow grease and some thought out momentum for the plan that we already have. And everything that we've done in Gildog came from that plan. And I think I've said that in here before, but it obviously did, because when we bought this property, we didn't know what we could or couldn't do. So we got in here and got a copy of that plan. And that's what we did, the boardwalk, the whole creating this outdoor destination. So we're just asking for the city to let's go, just jump on and let's all just put some effort toward this and really see what we can do and join us. So that's kind of what my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Again, any questions from Walter or Eric? If there are none, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
I think all of us probably have questions. I think, it's where to really get started. I guess, one central point in looking at, the whole presentation is parking. We have even Jim Priest here. They were talking about parking then. They're still talking about parking. And I think now, we see that even more. So I live in Sand Pebble. I've been to your establishment. I've walked over in that area. I bike ride, et cetera. And, most weekends, parking is going to be a problem. This is just the beginning. A lot of things are just starting over there. I think that is probably one central point. Where, and I know Tom will speak to this, but you referenced a property. We know the history of that property. At one point, it looked like there was going to be, and there was a presentation here regarding a large shopping area, if you would. I think it was going to be a hotel and shopping. Right. So there's been some reference to that particular spot, and now it just sits there basically growing weeds. I think Eric has said it. We've got a beautiful waterfront here. You can make a drive down to Dunedin. That's where I grew up, in Dunedin. You can go to Dunedin Beach. You see what they have down there. You're fortunate enough that if you live down there, you can walk. And for a lot of people now, we're becoming more urbanized. And, folks here, my neighbor walks up to your establishment, we've changed in Port Richey as well, that there's always been that center point to waterfront. And, whether you talk about Clearwater, you talk about Treasure Island, they all have something to offer. I think in your talk, you kind of specified too, well, we have something to offer here too as well. It just really needs to be fine-tuned. We sat here just less than a week ago, and they were talking from the county. There was a presentation here You know, we're fortunate to be part of that. These are more long-range goals, you know, when we look at this specific, you know, area in general, Newport Richey, Port Richey, et cetera. But I'm just trying to kickstart it here a little bit. You know, when you make reference, you know, build off of it, and, you know, we certainly see what's been done over there. You've put a lot of money into this spot, and, you know, it's changed that section. And maybe it's provided that catalyst, if you would. And now, you know, we want to look further. Again, I'll always come back to the parking because that's been a central point there for a long, long time. Warner Boyce, we're right there. You know, there's so much that has to offer. If we say build it and they will come, well, you know, build it and where are they going to park? You know, I think that's another reference. Nick's Park, you know, we've put money in Nick's Park. It's a small spot, but it's unique in the sense that, you know, you get there at 8 o'clock in the morning on the weekend now and it's packed. You know, there are not many places around to put your boat. There never has been in this particular area. This is an area that generally, when you go back, was 14-foot boats, not the 24-plus foot boats that we see here today. But landscaping and sign reference, I'd love to see that particular area. You know, when you go down to some areas like Dunedin, Treasure Island, et cetera. I'm not trying to say that's where we're going to be, but obviously there's an identity there. People know these spots. Trail development, I'd like to know where we're at with that. I know there has been some monies available. I'm not sure where that is as a whole, as a project, and I know there were some tie-ins to some of the trails. But managed parking solutions, I think that's a good reference. I've been in other states and have seen how these machines work. And with technology today, you know, maybe we're able to figure something out. Not only that, we've talked Nick's Park and usage over there as well for our own citizens outside the city, et cetera. And, you know, lastly, I'll just say the dredge. You know, we've got $1 million+ in this thing. I think everybody long knows the history of the
About certain items, I don't know if there's ever a reason why you need permission to do that.
Well, I think that what we've talked about and the subject of our discussions has been actual negotiations for certain items, parking and dredging of the adjacent canals. And I think we've discussed those specifically, and indeed we talked about that about 2 years ago. So your authorization to direct the staff to work with Mr. Soyanen and Walter and Colleen on negotiating an agreement for dredging, negotiating an agreement for parking, if that indeed works out, I think would be appreciated.
Yeah, that is, I guess, in the second point there is to enter in, because as Eric alluded to, we're needing to find some more concrete solutions.
Right.
And so to sit down and enter into direct negotiations to find out and come up with different solutions to present back to
And
the
again,
CRA.
like I said, this is pretty fresh for us, so I don't know, I would go so far as direction to enter into direct negotiations with the specific goal of achieving those in the short term, perhaps in the long term. I would say that when it gets into a public-private arrangement that complicates things, it obviously makes things better for both parties because, you know, nobody's paying the foot in the whole bill. I do know that when it comes to negotiating, any negotiating of say, a price on, say, a parcel of property on council has to be done in public. So that makes it pretty difficult to wheel and deal when you're trying to bring a price down when the other guy knows what you're doing on your side. So, you know, there's legal technicalities involved there when it comes to actual property itself. Not to not to say that the point made about the need for parking isn't well taken by everybody in this town. I mean, it's just, the parking has always been an issue out there. So, that's just some observations from my standpoint. Again, to me, this is a fresh presentation, so, I've got some stuff to digest here. But I'm not, saying that I don't see your vision as a vision that's not a desirable one. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
Obviously, yeah, I think Eric would be the best one to speak to that.
Well, I just want to say, I think there's a window of opportunity here, for this parking situation. And, just looking at the price that they have on this right now, the bank does not want to own this. I don't think it's going to last a long time. I look at, from an investor point of view, you look at, I think it's 160,000 cars a day that drive by here. So, as the market continues and the economy continues, somebody's going to see that as a jewel. And, I really believe that it could be a missed opportunity, because our parking situation is not going to go away. It's only going to get worse. So I think there's a time factor here that, we need to, and I think just, we know it has to be something that's agreeable to the council, we just want to try to get together and try to find a way. And, there's other investors that we may be able to bring into this as well. But I think just to say that there is some urgency here to get something done, because this problem is not going to go away. It's only going to get better, as far as I can see.
Okay, before I open it up to comment from the public, anyone else want to make some comments?
Not right now.
Well,
Terry?
when I moved here 10 years ago, that area down there was pretty stagnant. You had Hooters, who was just doing what Hooters does. You had Seaside, and you had a couple other people that were doing business. Uncatches came in and kind of spruced things up, and it livened things up for a while. But what you've done when you've come in has actually propelled us a little further than we've ever been before. And you're talking about momentum. And I agree, that piece of property you're looking at, they know it's valuable, we know it's valuable, it's written all over it. Mm-hmm. It's sitting right there in prime real estate. I imagine they want a big buck for it.
Reasonable. It's a reasonable number.
Is it reasonable?
It's reasonable, very reasonable.
Okay.
For 5 acres on US 19, there's a lot of money, but.
The thing is, we can do this the right way or the wrong way. If we keep muddling along without a plan and without putting a 5-year plan together, a 10-year plan together, we're going to end up with hodgepodge, and it's going to be a mess. So I would like to see us somehow or another, whatever it takes, to kind of start putting that plan to work. And we won't be able to do it all at once, of course. Mm-hmm. But there are things that are probably going to be more important to do first than others, and parking is critical. I don't know, I think we probably, council would have to find out exactly where our CRA dollars are, how much we got to play with, how much we may have as of the next budget. That might help us, give us some insight as to what we may or may not be able to do. But things are moving, and you are definitely bringing in the public, you are bringing in interest, so that's all good. County's very interested in, I'm sure she's talked to you, in joining us in anything that they can help us with, so we may be able to get some dollars through them. There's potential there. The only thing I noticed, Sean Poole had talked to me, I guess he has the original plans and did a lot of the work with this original waterfront plan. However, he said it was never approved. So he said the plan, the original plan was approved, but it didn't, actually council never went as far as to approve the, I guess, the implementation of the district. I guess is the only way I can put it. He could probably tell you better. So that's really no biggie, I don't think. It just has to come and be done. But from what he seemed to think that had never, that particular mark had never been passed. So he said, that's something you probably need to do before you do anything else, is to take that original plan and make sure that it's brought forward and approved by council. Other than that, like I say, money's going to be the issue. And I think there are certain things that are going to happen before we get anywhere else. And if we don't have parking, that's going to be a problem, a big problem.
It already is.
The sidewalks and all that, yes, and I think you were here when I told you that the state park is very ready and willing for us to extend into their park with this. She's going to build the bathrooms first, but she said after that she would love to have us extend that into the park.
We may want to go build their bathrooms, because, I mean, you know, it's, all they really have to do is take out a section of fence, and it's access to a beautiful park.
She realizes that, but for some reason she wanted us to come around the front. I think that's a negotiable type of thing anyway, but she is very excited to have us connect, and so those are all good things. And yeah, there's a lot of things coming together here. Just if we can find a direction to take the best available course.
If I may, I think we have the plan, you know? I mean, you know, we're talking about a hodgepodge, you know, of putting things together. I think we have the plan. I think any plan has to be adjusted a little bit, but I think we have the plan, and I think that 5 acres solves a problem. And from the city's point of view, you know, I mean, there's different ways, different creative ways, you know, because we all know how the city got burnt on certain things, and, you know, we try to, you know, stand by our reputation of being in business in Pasco County for, you know, 25 plus years, you know, where, you know, I think that's got to hold some weight here. So we would try to do something so it's a win-win situation. And, you know, who knows what it would be. I mean, how many investors we could get to get involved in this, or maybe the city does a lease back, or, you know, it doesn't have to be this massive, you know, risk on the side of the city. I think, you know, I mean, I understand that the city's been burned. I think really, I think it's a real investment opportunity, but I understand that maybe the city doesn't not want to be in that position to risk buying, you know, real estate. But, you know, it is an opportunity. And I'd be happy to sit down with anybody and you know, tell them what I know about it, and you know, what I've talked about just on my sleeve. I mean, I don't hide anything. So,
All right.
and if I may, just one more
Yes.
thing. I think, you know, regards to parking and the dredge and everything like that, you know, this has always been a sticking point, and there's a lot of money involved, no matter how you look at it. But the little things, I think we could start, you know, fast. You know, like the landscaping, and just, you know, bringing in the color and showing some effort, and just continuing that sidewalk. I think, Terry, you brought that up in a meeting maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so, that it was your discussion to continue that sidewalk. And that bottleneck at that corner, that's where somebody's gonna get nailed, is on Treadway and Old Post. So if we would come, and we would gladly give an easement to put a parking there, maybe some stone around that, and some, you know, some pretty flowers and things like that bring people around that corner. You know, that would probably, you know, foster more foot traffic and bike traffic and everything else. But I don't see it as being a huge expense. You know, I really see it as even if we did it as just a community thing. You know, and we talked about, we're having a mixer down there at Gildon. We're inviting all the Port Richey residents, and we're gonna survey all of them on how they feel about the dredge and how they feel about these other things, and just kind of a casual atmosphere. So we're not gonna have anybody up on a podium. There's not gonna be any agenda or anything. We're just gonna ask people to fill out a survey card, so we get a good gauge of how the residents feel about, you know, what we wanna try to do.
When are you going to do that?
That is,
Thursday night.
Thursday the 12th. The 12th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the 12th, I think it starts at 7 o'clock. And we're hoping that we get, you know, the decision makers to come down and have a beer and be accessible to some of the residents
Or
if they have
soda.
questions.
Or soda.
Or soda for all you soda drinkers.
I guess, and just, you know, one last thing, because you're right, you referenced money, but I think, and momentum, you know, I think what you are seeing is some real excitement. And, you know, I think you'll hear from some community members here tonight that are starting to get re-engaged and engaged deeply in the process. I mean, when we met with the Business Association, yeah, we went through many of the items that we have here, and yes, parking was talked about, but we also talked about, you know what, we just need to, you know, put some elbow grease in this and do a community cleanup. Let's the businesses organize that, you know, so now you're starting to see that reinvestment on a different level too. So I think that, you know, if we can show some signs of this true partnership, that I think you'll see some pretty exciting things happen, so.
Thank you. I'm going to open it to the public, and then we'll come back to you. Yes, Mr. Roth.
Carl Roth, 8031 Island Drive, Port Richey. I thought Walter and Mr. Soroyan did a great job here in putting the package together. It's in line with a number of things that the Port Authority has talked about, in line with the presentation that we had done for you guys a little while ago. I think one of the key attributes here is that we were talking to a number of people in the residential side, but Mr. Soroyan's been able to pull a number of people in the business sector together to coalesce this, and I think that's really a powerful statement on what the community is looking for from the agency. And I use the agency in a very specific term here because I know to date we've talked about budgets and what we have from a monetary standpoint, but one of the things I'm not fully aware of is what we've really bonded as an agency, what kind of finances we've gone off after other than just what's available from a budgetary standpoint. I know we've acquired the spoil site a couple of years ago, but one of the key attributes the agency is supposed to take on, the Community Redevelopment Agency, is help redevelop the city. And this parking is one of the key drivers for our businesses in the area, and to draw additional tourism and other things. It offers a lot of potential. So I'm not sure what our bonding potential is, but I know the county is very interested in helping us along this line. And I would not limit ourselves to just what we have in the budget, but think on a grander scale if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on, you all came out. You're attentively listening and watching. Come speak to us.
I guess I'm just so shy, you know, I've never been up here before speaking to y'all. Jim Priest, 5100 Sunset Boulevard. Haven't been around here for going on 2 decades now, and I've watched, you know, some changes be done to that waterfront district. I recall when Hooters actually came in there, when Sun Cruise came in there, when Catches was originally built there, you know, wanted it looked like the waterfront district was heading in a direction, you know, had some development going on there, and we were moving on it. Since that point, since the implementation of the WOD, which obviously we can check for record, I think it's been passed, but obviously we can check on that. But there hasn't been really anything significant the city's been able to do. We had a couple of opportunities there. They fell by the wayside. And at this stage, you have a group which was identified in Wade Trim as creating the destination for your WOD. You have to have something that brings people to it, okay? Restaurants do that, Sun Cruise to an extent does that, et cetera in here. But you have to create a destination, and that destination, and what I see with this group anyway, is ecotourism. The state of Florida seems to be pretty much behind that right now. They just spent $15 million in this year's budget to do the Cross Florida Trailway, okay? And it's gonna take a few more million, you know, on it, but they put a significant amount of money to it. So the state obviously is involved. That had more than a little bit to do with Mr. Weatherford and a few of the other members of our state legislature up there. I think they would be interested in seeing what we were going to be able to do with trying to promote further ecotourism. Get in on some of the tourism dollars that have been provided to Hillsborough County, Pinellas County. But in doing all this, your number one thing that you have a problem with that has been demonstrated time and time again, it happened in every development that we have spoke to, that you all have touched on, be it Dunedin, Johns Pass, et cetera, is if you do not solve the parking problem going in here, it is sure to fail. You're wasting so much of your property. If you look at that waterfront overlay district, or the overlay that was done by Wade Trim, you see how much parking was in that? It is a complete waste of ground. You know, you only have so much of this waterfront to work with. every time you force people to go ahead and comply, and which rightfully so, they have to go ahead and be able to provide for parking for those units in there on it, you take away valuable real estate that can be used for development, be used for retail, whatever the case may be. You have an opportunity right now in this parcel that was brought to your attention. Well, I think everybody is aware of it, but it was brought to the presentation tonight. The city needs to move on that. I'm no huge advocate, okay, of being a land banker by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe you have a group here that can demonstrate to you that this will not be a debt carry for the city, that there would be an opportunity actually to go ahead and be able to suffice and retire part of this debt as you move forward. So to not move on this, and I think, very quickly in there, would be a huge mistake, and it would be a detriment to what has not only been provided by this group that's there now, but by the Hooters and the Sun Cruises and the Catches of the world for us. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Mike Ferez, 8025 Island Drive. You guys have seen me up here a couple of times, I think. And not to beat and just echo what's going on. Obviously, we know the parking's a major deal. And it is, I think access is the biggest point. Most places have to drive ecotourism, they have to kind of come up with a way to develop the ecotourism and then bring the people to it. We have, as they've already showcased and they've given us access to, we have something that, pardon the the phrase, they don't make land anymore. Real estate's a good investment because they don't make land anymore. They make so few outlets to the Gulf, and we have a phenomenal flats fishing, paddling. All of that access is there, and very, very few people know anything about it. They've hit on it with the signage for pointing people to the fact that it's there. But obviously, if we don't do the parking, everybody knows that, great, you pointed them there, they make the loop, they see the boat ramp, they have to drive off somewhere else because there's nowhere to park. But I think one of the things that, just to echo the idea, things like the IFA Redfish Tour that doesn't come this far north along this coast because there's no good outlet to the Gulf that has the parking and the structure to be able to handle the weigh-ins, all of those tournaments. Most of those tournaments stop south of here. They go Port Charlotte, they go to Sarasota, then they pass us and they move on to Alabama and they go further north because there isn't a great place to flats fish that has good access and restaurants and all of the things that you need to feed the event. The fishing's cool, there's 20 boats, they don't care where they put in and they go out and they do their stuff and they come in and they weigh in. But it's the 10,000 people that show up to watch the weigh-in and they want to eat at restaurants and they want to walk around at shops and they want to do all those things. You couldn't do that in Clearwater. There's obviously not enough room for anything like that, and the flats fishing's horrible down there. We have that flats fishing here. The tournaments would go north, for power boats. They hit Chassahowiska, they hit all those things and come back here and bring all of those people to this area to have those tournaments. Those tournaments happen up and down the coast, 20 or 30 of them annually. And those are people that we're missing out, and we don't have to build the flats. We already have that. That was provided to us. I think between the businesses that we can develop in that area that are on the master plan, and Sean showed me the master plan. The business development there is awesome, and the idea of the revenue that could generate is fantastic. But I think it's the waterway ultimately that's the access the waterway provides is what's going to draw people here. And if we don't have a way to let them stop, park, get out, eat a sandwich, and then go enjoy the waterway, Gildog has provided a way for people who don't have boats and don't have access to do that. But I think we're missing a huge segment of the population that currently drives north or south to get out to the water and misses out on this. My wife would kill for one of those. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. There are definitely businesses that are interested in coming into the area because this is another Dunedin. We have the ability to be bigger and better than that down there because we have better access. We have better water than they have. That's all inside the intercoastal down there. That's great beach, but that's not fishing. And natural Florida is there's not a lot of coastal natural Florida that anybody's really capitalizing on. And I think we have a great showcase for that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kristen Tonkin, representing Sunset Landing Marina at 5115 Sunset Boulevard.
Will you need to speak into the microphone and
Yes.
articulate clearly? Thank you.
Okay. Just in light of what Mike said, there is also a House bill, and you would appreciate this since you're an attorney. It's a House Bill number 955 that stipulates that all commercial working waterfronts are to be protected. And it's basically that all municipalities and counties should help commercial working waterfront businesses and make sure that people in the communities have access to the water. That's what it entails.
What's the status of the bill?
It's a bill that was passed by Governor Bush when he was governor a couple years ago.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's all.
It's legislation on the books.
Yep.
Is there any funding?
Well, is there funding?
Yeah,
There's a lot of grant money out there. You just have to figure out what you want to get
okay,
and go for it.
okay, all right, thank you.
Sure thing.
I have a question.
Anyone else before I close it?
Good evening, I'm Rich Melton, 5242 Blue Point, live on the bayou. I walk to the establishment all the time. It is a very dangerous place at night without that road there. I just want to voice my opinion as not just a pedestrian, but as a community spokesperson to make sure that this doesn't happen. And you are missing a huge opportunity if we do not take care of that 5-acre parcel, because that is the key to this whole success of this plan. If you don't have the parking, you don't have nothing. You need to get the parking established, and you need to get it right away. We can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let me start it off with addressing some of the points that have been raised. The presentation that we've heard tonight is nothing more than a perfect coinciding with our own plans. The vision that this city had for the master plan in 1998 was a visionary one, award-winning plan, but we have not had the opportunity to move forward and do the development until properties became available and they could get developed. What we're seeing right now is almost a perfect storm of the state wanting coastal development, ecotourism, the county wanting redevelopment, and we have, as a city, one of the most valuable, accessible pieces of commercial property on the Pasco County coast. And so the extent to which the county is going to emphasize redevelopment, we become a crucial part of that redevelopment. If we fail to act as a city, as a CRA board, with this opportunity, we may never have another opportunity again to do what we need to do. If we fail to act, we have done a disservice to our city and to the community. So the time is here, the opportunity is here, and we need to seize this opportunity and move forward to do what we can do within our economic limitations, but we need to work with whomever, other governments, other private entities, to see how we can make this work, because the repercussions, the spill out of doing a good development is immense to this community and to this county. And if you have a major attraction in the waterfront where people want to come, where residents can walk to, you have created an environment where property values will go up, where the city becomes a real attraction for a place to live. It's again, I can't say enough that we need to have vision here. We need to act. We need to do what we can do to take advantage of the opportunity that is now before us. We haven't had, for a variety of reasons, not only because land wasn't available, but because in the last 6 to 8 years, the economy has been so bad that the opportunity to go move forward and do things simply hasn't been there. We're on the cusp of turning things around. It's gradual, and it will only increase. If you looked at the county studies, the growth in this county is going to continue to increase, but by 2015, 2020, you're going to see real spurts, according to their projection, of what's going to happen to the growth in this county. We have, with our plans, been ahead of our time. We've got things in place. Now we've got the opportunity to do something with it. We've got the dredging permits in place. We've got the master plan in place. Now, to address Terry's point about the waterfront district plan, the first part of the plan was before I served on council, but there was also a phase 2 of the waterfront district, and that was done by Wade Trim as well, and envisioned some stuff on the east side of 19, and I cannot imagine that we did not address the approval of the Waterfront District 1 because we did Waterfront District 2, and what specificity we have, but that Waterfront District has been part of our zoning code, so I can't imagine that it is not in place. So, as many speakers have pointed out, we will not succeed in the waterfront district without solving the parking. If anybody has been down there on a weekend, parking is chaos and largely unavailable. You know, part of our waterfront district overlay plan was to have a parking garage. We have plans for the parking garage. We spent large grant monies when they were available to develop the plans. We don't have land for that parking garage, but we have plans in place. That becomes the key element of a solution that will allow the waterfront district to develop in a feasible, economic, viable method. There are lots of options out there to deal with it, not only the parcel you're talking, you know, we've discussed, but there are other, you know, city parcels that may well be usable. In any event, it becomes our priority to address that issue because it can produce income to the city if we're a part of it, but additionally, it is what is essential for the best use of that land and for attracting people. People aren't going to come if there's no place to park. It just is not going to work. So there are some small things that I think we can do economically that we ought to move forward on, and that would be signage. It's not going to be a great outlay if we can find the location for the signage. If we can have cooperation of other business owners to put signage on US 19, then I think we ought to address that and have signage that is consistent and similar to the signage we've already developed for Welcome to Port Richey with the copper kind of semicircle. Mm-hmm. Part of the connectivity, part of the plan for the waterfront park was to connect it to the waterfront district. That was a key part of what we thought was essential to maximize the benefit to both for the city residents and for the commercial properties. That will take probably a little longer to get those plans and to do that, but I think that's a part that we should look at and move on. Landscaping. Landscaping, you know, I think is key, and it's not expensive. And well, we've learned lessons from some of the environmentally appropriate plantings.
Xeriscape type thing.
Xeriscape, you know, there's all kinds of things that are sustainable, that are beautiful, that we can add. So I think we ought to, with post haste, do some signage, do some landscaping, and move forward with discussions because, again, whether we can bond some of this, whether we can afford some of this, what assets are available, we need to investigate those options for parking. Let me also deal with the dredging issue. Obviously, we're in the process of trying to obtain funds for some dredging, some grant funds. When they will become available, the extent to which they may come our way, we won't know for a while. But before I became a member of this council in 2012, I know there were discussions about some dredging in that in our park area and in the waterfront area. I think we ought to revisit those, and I think they ought to make them a priority because we've got because it benefits the park, it benefits access to the commercial areas, and it benefits navigation. Those channels, the Shrimpers Channel, the ones right around the waterfront park and the waterfront district, need to be dredged. They're not, you know, they're for public access. They're public channels. And I think the expenditure of funds would be a reasonable expenditure of funds for the CRA to take to enhance the waterfront district and for navigation. Because I understand that, you know, on low tide, that the boats can't get through. It just is, I think, a good, sound allocation of public dollars to deal with those 2 or 3 canals. All right. So I commend Mr. Soyanen for the work that he's done because it's a beautiful place. But I also commend him for working with the city, working in compliance with what our vision was. You know, that's the kind of commercial enterprise that we should welcome and cooperate with and assist, because that is precisely what we set about doing, is to have a vision where, you know, commercial enterprises made sense in utilization of this district. So I'd like to see us concretely move forward and not debate this to death, as we've done many issues. We've talked to death in Mixed Park, and we've got no resolution. We need to move forward and instruct the staff to enter discussions to bring back some proposals and get going on something concrete and beneficial for the city. So I'm done with my speech. Please, no applause. Thank you. I appreciate it, but no applause. It's one of the rules that we try to abide by. Anyone else have any
I have a quick
comments?
point. You know, we've had businesses on the other side of Port Richey have parking issues also. So in doing these things, I really want everybody to put your thinking caps on and come up with an idea signage would be a start, to be able to pull in some of those other businesses that have existed on the river for quite a long time that have had issues with parking also. We have, you know, the old Crab Shack that's on the east side of the river, and then we also have the little boat guy, Jerry, that has been over there for years. And of course, we have Alex's restaurant. He really doesn't have any issues, but I would like to see some of the older businesses maybe in some way be able to benefit from that, you know, from whatever we're doing on the other side. I just want everybody to keep their minds open to that, to see if there's any way we can pull them in and work with them also.
Well, again, a good point, Nancy, but remember one of the visions for the connectivity on the hike and bike trail was to connect it from the west side to the east side, and if you're doing that, if ultimately, if we can continue to pursue that, then it does connect those businesses together from on the other side of the river with the west side of the river. And
Yeah, well, that's a plan, that's a county plan, correct?
that was part of our plan. That was part of our overlay
Going underneath
district.
the bridge.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But there are other other options, but their connectivity was always part of our plan, yeah. And I think that's an important element of our plan in connection with the other businesses on the water. Hang on, let's finish up here before I get to you, Eric. Okay. Anyone else?
I was just gonna add, you know, do we need more than just a consensus to have the city manager move forward on these items? Because mostly they're investigatory and are items that are within the,
Well, I have heard that you want to move forward with signage on 19. You want to look at some streetscaping and/or landscaping in the waterfront district. There was some discussion about connecting the waterfront park to the overlay district, and a definite that everybody wants to move forward on parking discussions, and revisit the dredging as well on the channels and canals that are adjacent to Mr. Soyanen's property. So I feel like I have my marching orders, if you're comfortable with that.
well, that's what I was saying. I mean, you know, I don't know that we need more than a consensus for that. We don't necessarily need a motion or a.
Okay. And anyone want to say anything with it? Is that the consensus? Do you, Mr. Rowe, is that direction you want the city manager to take at this point?
It's a start.
Okay.
I'm very concerned about the safety of the people that come to Guild Dogs events because of that lack of sidewalk around that area. I know, as you mentioned, the parking is a little crazy down there during the events, and a lot of those people are going up and down that road, and I'm just afraid somebody's going to get clipped. So if there's any way, I would like to see us at least move or get some idea as to what it would take to get that hike and bike trail extended around that property and get started there, because safety should be our first concern.
Okay. Steve?
I would just say, you know, look, we've talked about dredging for 10 years. We've talked about this overlay district at least quite a while since I've been up here. Let's not talk about parking for 5 years. You know, we've got an opportunity. We've got to move forward. You know, slow is not an option here, but parking. I know Tom says he has the marching orders, and I understand, you know, when we reference there's some short-term and there's some long-term. Look, short-term has got to be parking. And another short term is, as Terry referenced, you know, safety is key at this particular point. These properties are getting busier. That whole area is getting busier. I just don't want to read that somebody got hurt there.
I do want to add that we have been talking about parking for years. There has just never been any viable alternatives, you know, so.
Okay. All right. Eric, do you have something you want to say?
Don't screw it up now.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sure you're gonna chuckle at this one here, but, you know, when we're talking about the, connecting all the businesses, I'm gonna go, yeah, you're gonna think I'm whacked, but now I mentioned this to, Richard Gearing, and he didn't seem to think it was so whack for whatever that's worth. But if we get this parking lot, we get a chairlift. All over the Midwest, there's chairlifts on ski hills and everything. You've got 4 platforms, and it's an environmentally friendly solution, you know, to put the posts and the platforms, and you have people go from one chairlift to the other side of the river, to the other side of the bridge, and then back over. And it's rather, I mean, before you can get all these, you get the eye roll over here. I'll leave it at that, but it's, you know, that's where my head goes.
Well, there's our name, Chairlift City.
Well, think of the draw for that.
Or how about Gondola Way?
Be careful with that one.
But he's my crazy guy.
Yeah. So I know that the pathway underneath the bridge, come back a little bit more practical, that the county was, not to say a chair, that's not practical, but that the path underneath the bridge, we've been engaged in conversations with county level individuals on looking at some of those solutions. So I'm not sure if that falls within, I'm not sure where that path, the actual walkway, the boardwalk underneath the bridge, whose jurisdiction that actually falls within, if that's city or,
City.
I'm not sure. City.
City.
Yeah, I know it's something that they're, I guess, engaged in trying to figure out a solution with us.
Just a quick question. How many of the businesses want to jump in on this? Does Hooters want to jump in? Seaside?
Well, I know that
Patches?
Hooters was here. Obviously, in our business association, our informal business association up to this point, there's been probably majority of the businesses that are down there. We've had representation from Barrels Inc., from Porthole, Whiskey River, Ed. I see someone from the Lowe family, so Catches. So I think that we do have a good representation of the commercial entities down in that area. So I mean, I think the improvements, the access that we're all talking about is only going to make the area thrive. So I mean, I don't think you'll get any sort of resistance from that. We've also, to your questions and comments, Nancy, there are businesses over on the east side, Scott's Marine, that we've been engaged in conversations with, and so we are looking to really make that whole area sort of move and move in the right directions, and not just on the water side. So.
I hate to leave them out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. If there's any last comments before I adjourn? All right, seeing nothing else, the meeting stands adjourned.